Hello and welcome to Halton Women's Place, a show dedicated to the only women's shelter in the region and the issue of women abuse in our community and beyond. Many times in this show, I've talked about how Halton Women's Place success depends on community partnerships. Those wraparound services for our clients ensure success. I today have another partner with us today to talk about how we work together to help our clients, but also how they help the community in general. We have Donna Slater from Food for Life to talk about Food for Life, exactly that, and what you do, your services, and how you help Halton Women's Place. And Deanna Jackson, welcome back once again. Always working with our partners, and that's why you're here to represent Halton Women's Place and the partnerships that I talk so highly about. Welcome.
Thanks for having us.
Yeah, so tell us, for the community that doesn't know, what is Food for Life?
Yeah, so Food for Life has been in operation since 1995. We are a collaborative leader in sourcing, sorting, and sharing food within Halton region. And when I talk about sharing food, we really, we ourselves run our own 38 Food for Life programs all throughout Halton, as well as we work in partnership with many agencies, food programs, food banks, community dinners, and agencies like yourself, Halton Women's Place.
Wow. And how long have you been with Food for Life?
So I've been with Food for Life for almost 3 years now. I actually started as a volunteer at one of our Food for Life sites within Burlington, running the program. And then since then have moved into the role of program director, supporting our local food programs, as well as working in partnership with our agencies.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So, you know, when I go speaking across Halton, people are typically surprised at the fact that we have two shelters, that we work at capacity or over capacity, because they view, and rightfully so, Halton is known as an affluent community, and sometimes people are surprised that the need for women's shelters to be so great, the fact that we have two, and what our statistics say. What do you say about your statistics that show a little the same of what we're talking about at Halton Women's Place? Yes, Halton is an affluent or generous community, but we do have some issues.
So true, so true. And we hear that all the time at Food for Life as well. And being an organization that works throughout Halton with many different organizations, we work up to close to 50 other agencies within Halton region, as well as running our 38 food programs. We really see that need. So within a given week, you'd be surprised with this number, but we see upwards of 12,000 people in a given week accessing a food program in the community. Now that may be a family going to a community dinner, it could be a senior accessing a food program, it could be a youth who is accessing a snack program. So that number is extremely staggering, knowing how many people aren't educated and understanding that need. We also see that 37% of those accessing our Food for Life programs are children. 31% of our adults are seniors. It's quite something. And we also look at the people who come to our food programs. So 17% of those accessing our programs are employed. So these are people who are between trying to work various jobs, as well as just trying to make ends meet. So it's definitely something where that education piece is so important to understand. People may have a car, they may have a house, but they unfortunately are unable to put food on the table. So that's where organizations like Food for Life really look to support that neighbor in need.
It's an important statistic, because all those statistics, especially the part about people that are employed and accessing your services, because I think that is, we have a stereotype, right? So we have a stereotype of, women that access our services and have to live in a shelter, but also families that need to access these food programs. How would somebody access your programs? What are some of the ways?
Yeah, for sure. So one thing with our Food for Life programs, we call them barrier free. So basically what that means is anyone is able to come to our food programs. It means that if you're between jobs and you need food, you can come to our programs. You don't need to bring any sort of ID with you. You don't need to show proof of need. You just need to bring 1 or 2 grocery bags with you, so you have something to put the food items into. We know that when people are struggling to make ends meet, it's usually those fresh food items that leave their grocery list. So that's why when someone accesses our programs, they're getting fresh fruits, vegetables, dairy, meat, and bread. Those are the key items that you're going to find at our programs. And as we say, anybody is welcome to come. Where to find out about these programs, you can go on our website, which is foodforlife.ca. And on there is a link to an incredible website as well, which is finding-food.com. And on that website, you'll find all food programs in Halton region. So you'll find the Food for Life programs on there, but you'll also find the local food banks and food programs and food outreach dinners that you have access to.
Okay.
Yeah, it's important to know where they are. Mm-hmm. So that's where we know that this resource is very important for the community.
And how, Deanna, how do we work together with Food for Life?
We're very fortunate. So we've worked with Food for Life for a number of years now, and the partnership has really grown. The Food for Life helps with our women who are leaving the shelter and transitioning into their home. Mm-hmm. We can call or email and say, can you put something together? And we go pick it up so that this woman, when she gets to her new home, she's got those fresh food items, right? She's got some of those staples that she needs. Yeah. So at least there's 3 or 4 meals there for her, so she doesn't have to worry about going out and doing the groceries right away. She can just settle into the home. Which
can be such a stressor, right, for women, yeah. is that first grocery trip if you don't have the funds.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. And the other way that they help us out is both shelters are able to access Food for Life. Okay. In Milton, the truck comes up, which is great, and they bring fresh fruit and vegetables and stuff into the shelters for us.
Wow.
So that is a huge help as well.
That helps with our budget line, that's for sure, right? Yeah. Because those are the essential healthy items, which are expensive, which, like you said, will be last on those women's lists because, or families' lists in your cases, because it's the most expensive. So they go to the processed and the boxed foods first, because those are the cheaper types of foods to fill you up.
For sure.
Yeah,
for sure.
Yeah.
And you can stretch your dollar more, right? So we always talk about the $10 or $20 you may have in your pocket. Mm-hmm. When you go to a grocery store, you're going to buy a $5 bag of apples, some carrots, and a cantaloupe, or you're going to be able to buy 20 items,
right.
And have a full bag. Yeah.
Yeah. And how are you funded?
So we are funded, 25% of our funds come through the Halton region, as well as United Way of Halton Hamilton. So we're truly grateful for our donors. And the other part of how we're funded is through the community. So we have some incredible corporate sponsors, as well as some very engaged community members who really keep our trucks running, because that is really our true expense, is keeping our trucks on the road and gas in those trucks moving. We're very much a volunteer-based organization, so that's where our expenses are within those trucks. And yeah, so we're truly grateful for the support that we've had from the community. When we look at our volunteers that are out every week running our programs, we have within the community over 500 volunteers weekly running those programs within the community. So it is truly so engaging. Yeah, so engaged.
And how can people get involved? How do they contact you, or what else do how can the community get more involved in your organization?
Yeah, for sure. So we have many opportunities within the organization as a whole. So we may have various events that happen throughout the year. So probably staying up to date on our website or through our Facebook feed or our Twitter around the different events, such as at Christmas time we do the turkey drive, in which the community comes together. We had about 150 volunteers out at Christmas time asking shoppers to donate a turkey to a family in need at our local Fortinos. Nice. So that was pretty incredible. We also have a great relationship with Community Living Burlington, where we sort food weekly. So every Tuesday from 10 to 12, the community is welcome to come in and sort food, which then goes out into to the community.
Wow,
essentially. So they can just look on our website, they can reach out to myself, and we can get them started. Yeah.
What does this partnership mean to our clients?
I think it's huge because, we know that when women leave the relationship, they quite often fall below the poverty line, right? So, and I don't think a lot of people realize that. Mm-hmm. So trying to be able to afford the food. It's just what we were talking about. You know, you can go in and you can buy 20 items for $20, which is food, and it puts breakfast, lunch, and supper on the table, but it doesn't allow you the fresh products, right? A lot of food banks, historically, you could get the staple stuff, you could get the canned and the packaged stuff, but you couldn't get the dairy, the milk, those kind of things. So, and the fresh fruits and vegetables. So be able to have that is huge, because they can put healthy meals on the table, right? Instead of just affordable.
That's right.
Right?
Yeah,
So.
yeah. And so how else, how do you get the food, I guess you could say? Can people donate food to you, and do they?
So there's various ways that we access our food. So our food is recovered food from our local Fortinos, Longo, Costco, Whole Foods, as well as we have partners in Milton, like Gordon Food Services, where we're able to pick up sometimes daily at our local grocers, as well as we also have food sharing partners where if we have a whole lot of tomatoes that come in, we're able to share them with our partners in other communities where we're able to then get other items. Because we also talk about variety at our programs, where it can't just be potatoes or carrots. We want to make sure that we have tomatoes or lettuce or peppers or different items, because we know we need a full array of items to make a healthy, balanced diet. So a lot of our food comes through our donors, as well as we do have organizations and corporate sponsors that run food drives for us. Because even though we don't focus on canned and boxed items, we do also offer that at times within the organization. And last year was pretty interesting in that we did actually start some fresh food drives. So a little bit of a twist. So it's that whole idea of people bringing in cucumbers and peppers and oranges and apples versus the cans that you see.
Yeah, that's fantastic. Yeah. Do you see your numbers changing throughout the year in terms of like volume of people that are coming, the statistics?
Yes, most definitely. So we have seen an increase overall across all areas. I would say the most increase I've seen is in the amount of seniors accessing our programs.
Yes.
We see that seniors who have never had to ask for help all their life, now being retired and a bit further on in their years, are now having to reach out to a food program in the community. And that's where we want to make sure people are educated and understand and know that there is help within your community.
Fantastic.
Where they can access food.
Thank you so much for joining me and letting us all know more about Food for Life. We'll be right back with our next segment talking about trauma-sensitive yoga. Hello and welcome back to Halton Women's Place. Today's theme is about health. In our first segment, we spoke about food and getting access to access for a community to get food. And now we're switching gears and talking about healthy body and mind. Today we have Andrea and Dia, and we're going to be speaking about trauma-sensitive yoga. Now, you're with Healing Together yoga, right? Okay.
Yep.
Tell us a little bit about.
Okay, so Healing Together Yoga was created with the intention of providing trauma-sensitive yoga. And there's a specific protocol that both Dee and I have studied from the Trauma Center in Boston. And in delivering that trauma-sensitive yoga to people with histories of PTSD, so post-traumatic stress disorder, and complex trauma.
So what is PTSD?
Yeah, so PTSD, so the experience of trauma, basically results from an experience that is overwhelming to a person's nervous system. And so I think in the last 10, 15 years, maybe a little bit longer, there's been some amazing advances that have happened in the field of neurobiology in terms of understanding what PTSD actually is. And so I think one key point about that is to understand that it's actually PTSD has an impact on the level of the nervous system and the neurobiology of the brain. And so some of the new advances that are coming out in terms of understanding how to treat PTSD take that into account, including the protocol that we're using for this trauma-sensitive yoga.
And what are some of the symptoms of PTSD?
Okay, yeah, so PTSD in general is an anxiety disorder. So of course there's that experience of anxiety. There's also the element of intrusive memory, and so that can take many different forms. There's some people will experience nightmares or flashbacks, but it might also be just fixation on certain memory, certain experiences that sort of are relived over and over again through memory. And there's also the experience of triggers, so experiencing a response, again, on the level of the nervous system that's beyond conscious control that basically provokes a fight, flight, or freeze response in the body. And the experience of that can be so overwhelming and not just uncomfortable, but really disturbing, that then there's the third component of PTSD, which is avoidance, and that's the attempt to eliminate triggers. So for some people that might result in, for example, not being able to leave the house because going outside will just provoke triggers. For other people though, and this is very common to PTSD, is the experience of not being able to stay connected with physical sensation, because the sensation or the emotions that are experienced in the body themselves become triggers for that response. And so then there are, again, those neurobiological changes which can be seen on brain scans, which, it's the brain's adaptation in order to basically shut down the experience of internal sensation or to distort it in some way. And so one of the findings they found with this yoga protocol and research that's been published in psychiatric journals is that following 10 weeks of this yoga protocol, which focuses on kind of reestablishing that relationship with physical sensation and emotion, that prior to those 10 weeks, brain scans showing pathways in the brain shut down, and then at the end of those 10 weeks, showing those pathways that are now lighting up again and that are becoming integrated again. So it's basically a way of, one of the elements of this yoga protocol is that it's a way of reclaiming relationship to one's body, to the physical sensations, and to the emotions in one's body in the aftermath of trauma.
Wow. You mentioned complex trauma. Is that something separate than PTSD?
So right now, complex trauma is considered, one form of trauma, and this protocol was specifically designed for complex trauma, in fact. And what distinguishes complex trauma from other forms of trauma is that it's experienced in the context of relationships. And so generally that will occur over time. It's not a one incident thing in general, but it's chronic over time. And I think maybe the forms that people might relate to, or that might be familiar to people, is to think about situations that are pervasive in our society, including domestic abuse, including child abuse. And so the original study that was actually done in the protocol involved a group of women that had histories of childhood sexual abuse or physical abuse, and had been in treatment, had diagnoses of complex trauma, and then had been in treatment for a number of years without seeing significant results. And again, as a result of these 10-week weeks of trauma, they found a 33% reduction in symptoms, and over half of the participants actually no longer qualified for the diagnosis of PTSD. That's the extent to which the symptoms improved. So it was quite hopeful to hear those kind of statistics, and that's kind of what inspired me to want to work with this protocol and bring it back into the community to people who might benefit.
And so where do you practice this, or how do you get into the community?
Yeah, so there's been a number of different initiatives, but when I completed my training a few years back, came back and started this Healing Together yoga, we started by providing drop-in programming at some of the shelters and transitional housing through the Native Women's Center, actually specifically in Hamilton. But then in this last round, which was in the fall, Dee and I had the chance to work together at the Good Shepherd Center, and we offered again 3 sessions of trauma-sensitive yoga there. So,
what was the feedback, I guess? What would you say?
So what was unique was that Andrea and I were both in the same room. So I was providing the role of a counselor. So if women needed to step out, I was available to step out. So she was doing the teaching aspect. And at the end, we did ask for feedback, and it was really remarkable the impact it had on their lives. And one woman who had been suffering nightmares for years, 30 years, said that for the first time she was able to sleep throughout the whole night.
Wow.
So really that level of impact that this has had on women.
That's fantastic. So
Yeah.
how would you explain this type of yoga to women that might be interested, that may be suffering?
So what I love about it, as a counselor,
Yes.
I really understand the importance of bringing in the body, especially when it comes to trauma, because trauma lives in the body. So you need to have a way to release that and heal it. So this particular yoga offers a structure that is invitational, in that the language that we use is very invitational and choice-based. If you'd like to raise your hands above your head, you can.
Right. And that change is, even though it's subtle,
Yes.
is impactful.
in
Right.
particular with complex trauma, because
Right.
it's a trauma that is rooted within relationships. So kind of redefining, reshaping what that might look like in the context of a yoga class.
Yeah. And how perhaps that woman was never asked how she felt, or asked to do, was told to do things and to participate in things, and not as a peer. Right, or as an equal partner.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah. Wow.
Yeah.
Anything
I was
else?
just going to say, because typically in trauma, the element of choice is not there. It is something that is done to you, and you have no choice.
Right.
So to be able to set up a structure where women feel and are given permission to be their own owner of their own body, sovereign over their body and what they choose to do.
Wow.
Even in an hour,
Right.
it has ripple effects
Right.
in all the decisions they make, external from the class, outside in their daily lives.
Right.
Yeah.
It carries through.
That disempowerment, exactly, that is at the heart of really complex trauma. And to hear people's responses, through the sessions that we ran, and as well through some of the research that's out there right now, that experience of empowerment, even just in the context of physical movement, right? To have a class that's structured in such a way as to, rather than telling people what to do in any kind of prescriptive way, to offer sort of a series of choices and to highlight, where the possibilities are. And so there's many comments, but one that that has stuck with me about from a woman that participated in one of these sessions, and said that now as a parent, she's able to kind of see the different possibilities in terms of her own parenting with her children. And so even though that's, we're not addressing parenting specifically in a trauma-sensitive yoga class, but as Dia is saying, that kind of spillover, that kind of ripple effect of, feeling a sense of agency, feeling a sense that, I can choose, I can do something, and that there's possibility, because that's often something that gets shut down with trauma, is the feeling that there is no real hopelessness, lack of choice, lack of possibility, and to start seeing possibilities. in different contexts. Another one that stands out is a woman who said after the 10-week research that was originally done, and she said, now when I go into a grocery store, I know what I want.
Wow.
Right.
Right, because you wouldn't put those two together. You wouldn't put that connection together.
Exactly. Yeah.
Fantastic.
But their
Oh my
ability
gosh.
to make decisions on their own.
Right. Which we see at the shelter a lot, right? These women that were not all of them, but some of them that were not able to make any decisions.
No.
And how difficult that is when all of a sudden we're saying to them, okay, what's next for you, right? That's
Exactly.
difficult, right? And working on that.
And a really interesting piece to that is the combination of physical sensation and decision making,
Yes.
which again people might not put together. But in terms of the neurobiology of this, the way that physical sensation is translated into the conscious mind is directly associated with the parts of the brain that are implicated in decision making. So once that, if that happens, that sensation is shut down or really distorted in some way, access to physical sensation, there's a direct link between that and then the ability to make decisions. So there's a neuroscientist by the name of Dan Siegel, and one of his quotes that I first read that just kind of, blew my mind, and he says that in his view, intuition might be seen as the way that this kind of conscious perception of physical sensation is layered into all the other parts of the brain that are able to make decisions. So differentiating just, rational kind of, the idea of decision just being based on logic, like a computer type of thing, with contrasting that to the wisdom of being able to make decisions while using the information and the wisdom from our bodies.
Wow.
Yeah, it's pretty fascinating.
Absolutely. Now, before we wrap up, I need to know, is this something that we can bring to Halton?
Absolutely.
Yes, please.
I think it would be wonderful to incorporate it into our clients at the shelter, but also, as you mentioned in the beginning, transitional clients who have perhaps moved on from the shelter. It may work a little better with their schedules.
Some
Distance.
stability,
Right.
also in their housing, and are able to start working on themselves on a more emotional way. Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, this means that I need to look for some grants so that I can introduce this to Halton and to the clients. I want to thank you both very much for coming. I think it's an important discussion to have and to educate our community more about different types of therapy. So thank you for coming.
Well, thanks for having us.
Thank you for watching. I want to thank all of my guests. We've got a lot of D's. Donna, Deanna, Dia, and Andrea talking about health in all different aspects in terms of healing. Thank you. We'll see you again.